Or they try to.
Hi, welcome to this segment of Pittsburgh Business Virgin. I'm your host, Brad Hilbert, president of Three Rivers Wealth Management Group. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Brian Klaus. And we're here today with Chuck Denning. And he is the owner, the founder, the big poobah for XVP Solutions, LLC, which is an executive business consulting, coaching business. So first of all, Chuck, thank you for being here today.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
And, let's dig in. How did you start XVP? And, how did it come about? How did you have this sort of this epiphany to start this?
Well, it's a great question, and one I'm asked actually often. XVP Solutions was actually started because I lost a position several years back.
Not unusual.
And in the economy, August 2008, when everything was starting to crash, my company was going through some changes, and it was time for a change for everybody. So I had an opportunity to kind of look at and reflect at, some of the things that I've done through my life, and it was time to explore a little bit more. And what I knew from my past was this. I was formerly in the professional employer industry. And that's a service where you get involved with employer responsibilities, payroll tax matters, and payroll and fringe benefits, things of that nature. And I had come across a lot of business owners that just seemed to be really clueless as to how their business operated internally and things. And I found that they really needed some type of help. And working around these people a lot, I never found anybody that was seeking any type of help. But they always would call me for help when I was their salesperson.
When I hear you say that, I always think about the book, The E-Myth, and you talk about most people who start in a business are really good at whatever that business is. They're the technician, but they're not everybody is a really good manager.
Yeah, and what you find is people get really squirrely about the idea of accepting help from true professionals. Oh, it's going to cost me too much, or I'm not sure I trust these other people. So the big part of it is building the trust to get them to understand that, hey, I'm here to help, and that's my business.
But it's also helping them understand what's the cost of failure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So why I determined coaching was the place to be was because of what I experienced in the PEO world. And it had a lot to do also with former experiences, and that is my wife and I own a business called Creative Stitches by Dina Incorporated. We use the acronym CSDI. It's been in business now for 16 years. And that business was born out of a necessity. My wife had worked for a company that she had lost her job in downsizing, and she always was a crafty type person. And she started sewing, and somebody took a liking to some of the things that she had done and had given her a fur coat one day. She made a teddy bear out of it. And what happened was...
That's a high-end teddy bear.
A high-end teddy bear, yeah.
Was it a mink teddy bear?
It was a mink teddy. In fact, I believe it was a mouton is what it was.
Really?
Mouton is a sheep type of fur. And she made this teddy bear. A newspaper picked it up. A local newspaper picked up this human interest type story. Well, then KDKA and WTA picked up the story, and they came out and did some human interest stories and ran them on the 5 o'clock news.
Yeah.
The phones rang off the hook.
And the thought process around these teddy bears is that a lot of times grandma passed away or mom passed away, leaves a coat. Maybe it's not of the daughter's flavor or their size.
Sure.
But yet they want to keep something, a memento from mom, so they would give this fur coat to your wife, and she would make teddy bears out of it.
Exactly.
It's an awesome idea.
It's a recycling thing, because otherwise the coat sits in the closet.
Yeah.
And it turned also into the idea that wedding dresses came about and ties, somebody that's passed and, there's a lot of ties left over, you can make a teddy bear out of it. And so now you have that keepsake for the coffee table. It's a great conversational item when somebody comes into your house as well. Well, that turned into a nice business, and she accumulated cash. So we decided, what do we need to do? We need to do something with this cash. This is working out pretty well. She liked to sew. We went into the embroidery business. started an embroidery business. This is still in the basement of the house. And she figured she could use the embroidery machine with the teddy bears. And after a little while, that caught on pretty nice, but I started to get concerned about, we made a big investment in this embroidery machine.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I says, geez, you got to get out there and find some business. She called on a few contacts that she had at her former employer and finally became the #1 provider for that employer of all their logoed items worldwide. And she'd had the contract for 9 years where we employed 11 people in the business. The business grew from the garage. It went to a rental facility. In that rental facility, we kept renting more and more space. We took more space than the guy that owned the building. Finally had to buy a building. Then we created another business out of that. And
That's where Denning Properties came in.
Denning Properties came about at that point. We bought a piece of property, and when we moved in there, we were already growing outside of that building, and we needed to go to another facility.
Amazing.
So we bought another property about a year and a half after that with an acre of ground and 2 buildings, and we now have about 7,000 square feet. Several years back, then that customer that we had that we'd put so much effort in decided to go another direction.
And hang right there, because in our next segment, we're going to come back with Chuck, and we're going to talk about challenges. And one of the crazy, or one of the things that we were talking about is how, you were holding on to like over $1 million worth of inventory at any given time in this operation to be able to provide for this major account, and then they pulled out.
Right.
So we want to talk about why you think they might have pulled out, any learning lessons there, but also just talk about the challenge, because literally overnight, a lot of people would have been wiped out, but here you guys are, bigger, stronger, better today. And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned in there. Once again, we're here with Chuck Denning, and the business is XVP Solutions, LLC. And the place to go to learn more about his business is xvpsolutions.com. You can also reach him at 724-864-3145. And we'll make sure that's on your screen as you're watching this. And come back for segment 2 with Chuck Denning.